Greetings, true believers. Drew here from Horror, Sci-Fi, and Beyond, and we got episode 2 of MCU Lookback with Phase 1, Part 2, when we're going to cover the first Thor, Captain America, the First Avengers, and the OG Avengers. The first time all these amazing characters came together. And with that, we have none other than Eric White and Jackson Harbor. How's it going, guys?
Great. Excited to be back in the saddle.
Oh yeah, the first episode with a huge success. I did not expect it to get 500 views, and in fact, within the first 24 hours, it became the highest or the most viewed video on the channel.
Nice. Marvel is clickbait.
Yeah, everyone wants to hear it. Even if you hate someone's opinion, you'd still watch it and just go like, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I'm not even kidding. I posted it on Friday, and then that night I actually was preparing for this video. I was watching Thor, and I checked the views, and it got 140 views.
Nice.
Yeah, which is crazy to me. But yeah, so again, thank you guys for watching the video. I really appreciate it, and hopefully this one is just as successful because we got some big dogs here.
Yeah, please continue to watch.
Yeah,
or listen, or whatever you want to do. Yeah, or just watch a little bit and turn it off. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
please watch the whole thing.
So couple housekeeping things before we get started. The first thing is the next video that the next episode we're gonna do is in honor of the upcoming Oscars. Me and Eric are gonna do our top, or I don't know if we're gonna do a list necessarily, but we're gonna talk about 4 performances that should have been nominated for Oscars. Because that's a highly debated. Oh, you got 4?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you said 4. Because I could name lots.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know how we're gonna kind of structure that, but and then that's gonna branch off into why horror gets screwed over at the Oscars. So that's
what's his name, Jordan Peele.
Yeah. Nobody get nominated for anything this year, which was surprising.
Right.
Yeah, I would have thought several things like cinematography.
Yeah.
And
I was hoping Keke Palmer would gotten the nomination, but
that would have been cool.
Well, that was pretty tight. That was a pretty tight one this year.
Yeah.
If you remember in our last MCU Lookback, that we were kind of speculating, or we're talking about that the character Tim Blake Nelson played become the character named the leader, and I didn't really know who that was. And so I have a Marvel encyclopedia. And I actually took a picture of his section. So I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs of his section. After dropping out of high school, Samuel Stearns took a menial job in a U.S. government research facility where an accident led his body being bombarded by intense gamma radiations. Stearns developed an insatiable thirst for knowledge, and as his intelligence expanded at exponential rates, so too did his cranium. Unfortunately, Stearns' increased intelligent capability was not matched by emotional maturity. Disguised by government corruption, he decided that he should command the human race and restyle himself as the leader.
Okay, sounds like a fun guy.
Yeah, I like to have a beer with that guy. On Saturday night.
Oh, the things that could have been if they had kept Tim Blake Nelson around.
Yeah,
I guess they could always bring him back. I mean, what's he doing?
Yeah, I mean, they brought back the Abomination finally.
Oh yeah. God!
So.
Do not remind me of that, Jack. I dread.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it at some point. It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be a real fun talk.
So, anyway, let's get to Thor. And one thing I do want to start introducing in here is plot summaries according to IMDb. So I'm going to read off their plot description real quick.
Okay.
The powerful but arrogant god Thor is cast out of Asgard to look amongst humans in Midgard, or Earth. where he soon becomes one of the finest defenders. So what are you guys' overall thoughts of this movie before we get to
Do you want to go first?
It's fine. I mean,
It's fine.
it's fine. It's like, I don't know. Like, they just didn't really know what to do with Thor yet. And we get into this same problem as we'll get into the sequels. Thor's kind of a tough character to realize on screen, you know, because he's kind of like this. I mean, he's like a dumb jock a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Chris Hemsworth is great. I mean, I think his performance as Thor is one of the highlights of the MCU for me, especially as they let him be funny. Like, he gets some of that in this movie. We'll talk about that, but
sure.
Yeah, but overall, it's fine.
Yeah, it's got its moments. Thor, and honestly, the stuff at Asgard works better for me than the stuff on Earth. Which some of it does, some of it doesn't. I mean, a lot of that meet cute stuff with like him and Natalie Portman, I don't really buy, and so like a lot of it's kind of like, I don't believe that they fell in love that quickly, and that she's an actual scientist who doesn't say anything for the entirety of the movie for the most part. But you know, to me, this is a better Loki. I don't know if that's probably controversial to say, mainly because I think he's got a better character arc in this one than he does in Avengers. But that's just me.
Sure. I mean, Loki's always awesome in these movies.
And I think you can't just take his character arc movie by movie. You have to watch it unfold throughout like a whole bunch of movies. And of course, now with his TV show, they've sort of reset the character. But you know, we're not there yet.
I love his whole interaction with Owen Wilson in that Loki series. My overall thoughts on the movie Thor is I actually really like this movie, surprisingly. Yeah, the action could have been a little bit better or filmed better. I think the way it's choreographed is fine, but I think it could have been filmed better or edited better. And it looks like absolute shit when I saw it in 3D when it first initially came out. The whole thing with Natalie Portman and Thor, that's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if Natalie Portman was miscast or, you know, she was directed horribly or she was making bad decisions, or I don't know really.
I think the script kind of just let her down a lot of the way
too. But I do like the Shakespearean nature of it, and I know you wanted to talk about like the directors of these movies, Jackson, and talk about and I think Kenneth Branagh coming from a Shakespearean background with like Hamlet. Which I actually saw that movie when I was in high school.
All 4.5 hours of it?
Well, part of it. We saw like the Robin Williams part, which was awesome.
You watched take one then.
It's the only full adaptation of Hamlet that's ever been filmed.
Oh yeah.
Where they don't cut anything out of the play. Yeah. So it's very long.
Very long. I like how Branagh brings the gravitas to this movie.
Yes. And that's why I think go ahead, sorry.
And I think that's why how you kind of buy into all this. And I think the sets are like absolutely outstanding. And I guess we can get into this. We can get into like the nitty-gritty. I kind of wanted Thor and Loki as kids. Like I wanted that scene to be a little bit longer. I wanted to know what their relationship was like.
I'd agree. I think we could have, and honestly, like this kind of goes back to Iron Man a little bit too, is that part of the movie works really well. And so like all the stuff with Iron Man when he's in the cave at the beginning, I could have watched an entire movie like that. And like along with what you're saying, I really could have probably just seen more of Asgard and less Earth stuff. But that's not the movie we were dealt, I guess. I agree. I would getting more of their backstory as kids would have set them up, their like sibling rivalry up a little bit.
Maybe like 10 more minutes. 5 or 10 minutes with them as kids. I don't know if you ever saw that animated movie, The Prince of Egypt.
Oh, that's such a great movie.
Yeah.
I love that.
So the part in the beginning where Moses and Ramesses are like chasing each other in the chariots. Like a moment like they're like playing some Asgardian sports and like they're you know like being competitive.
Right. And then you could have like you really could have set up Loki's abilities too in that point because
Right.
it plays fast and loose with what he can do in this movie. Like he's just disappearing and appearing in places. Like he shows up when Thor's in jail and like no one can see him, but they never really set that up at any point. And there's
Mhm.
just a lot of things that he just does just because I guess it's set up in the comics, but I didn't really read any Thor comics growing up, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I have no idea what Loki's power set is. I know he
He's
shapeshifts, he does that a lot.
Yeah, he's a
And
frost
then
giant.
I guess he can like astral project himself. It's very strange.
Right.
Yeah,
And what's crazy about the whole Loki situation, and I think a lot of people before this movie came out, basically when they thought of Loki, they thought of like the mask and Son of the Mask.
Mm.
Like that was
Oh,
their frame of
yeah.
reference right there.
I
But
forgot
now,
that
yeah,
was
they talk
because of
about-
Loki and that.
Same.
I want to go back, circle back to Kenneth Branagh for just a second. For one, like we didn't really talk about this in the first episode. Like Jon Favreau seems like, you know, a logical choice to get this franchise started. Like he had already sort of established himself as somebody that was a good storyteller. You know, he'd only made 3 movies, but he was like, he's good with special effects because he'd made like Elf that had some effects, and then Zathura has actually some really good effects in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, it's strange. You're right though, but along those lines, like didn't Zathura bomb? Like
it bombed
it
hard.
didn't do well, and then they were just like, here's a $100 million movie.
Yeah,
which I think was
then,
probably
So then they bring in Louis Leterrier to do the Hulk, and that makes sense too because he's an action guy.
Yeah,
And you know they wanted it to be a more heavy action movie than the Ang Lee Hulk had been.
Right. And he seems
Then
like he's
it's
very
like
enthusiastic about the Hulk too. If you see the special features, like he seems like he likes the Hulk.
Mm-hmm. But then you get like, oh, we're bringing in Kenneth Branagh, Shakespearean actor and director, also Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter, weirdly enough.
Yep.
Right.
But it's like we're gonna bring in Kenneth Branagh, and that was a get. That was a big get. And then you see what he does with it, and it's like, Kenny, what are you doing? Why is everything done in a Dutch angle?
Yeah,
there's no reason.
It seems to be. It seems. Yeah, they seem to do a lot of that in this movie and in the Avengers. It's not as noticeable in the Avengers as it is in this movie.
But here it's like every
other
establishing
scene.
shot. Like it's like, oh, here's a diner, but it's shot in a Dutch angle.
Right. They'll even like start
bizarre.
on shots and move into a Dutch angle. Like there's
Yeah,
a shot where they're sitting on the roof and they'll just Dutch it up.
Do you think Branagh basically like just read a few Thor comics and like comic book panel, they're kind of weird and
I have no
Maybe,
idea
I don't
because
know.
if
Maybe
you
he
watch
didn't
his
read
other
anything.
movies, he doesn't use Dutch angles like that. You know,
Yeah.
this is something he did. This is a very specific choice for this movie, and I don't understand the choice.
I mean, if you're gonna do that, at least they did what Ang Lee did with the Hulk and like just do comic book panels.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But it was still a big get because it was like, okay, this guy is gonna lead. He's gonna lend this franchise some like artistic cred. You know.
Oh sure, yeah. It's Oscar nominee Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Like I mean, they had like Jon Favreau, like you were saying, was like at least established before, but now like they've got like they've got Oscar
Kenneth
caliber
Branagh's
people
made
behind the camera.
a really big hit. Oscar.
Put on the big guns on this one,
right? And it was just kind of not great, but he got a paycheck, I assume. I mean that's good for him. So
I think the Dutch thing that was a little weird. I would have to say I don't like how they opened up this movie with Jane Darcy and Dr. Solberg. I thought that was a weird way to open the movie. I think you definitely needed to open it up with explaining like who the Asgardians are, and then their relationship with like the Frost Giants.
It feels kind of tacked on. Like it doesn't really fit. Like I guess it's to set up like, oh, something weird's happening, but like I don't know.
Yeah,
it never really.
It's that weird thing that movies do where they open with a scene from the middle of the movie and then go back, and I that almost never works.
And you saying that I can't remember what episode of Fear of God it was, but it was a recent one where Reed Lackey complained about that. And I agree with them in some respects. Definitely here, I think, which is odd. But I think like if you can do it right, I feel like it can work on a rare occasion.
Yeah.
I don't have any examples though, so
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I guess I would make the argument about this next movie too that we're about to review is Captain America doesn't need to open on that scene where they find the shield either, to me at least.
well, I mean that's so
No,
part of his character of his lore. It's
I think it
I don't know,
makes
I
more
guess.
sense in that movie. Yeah,
It
I
does
think
make
it
more
makes
sense
more
in that
sense.
movie.
yeah.
It is a
But
lot like
I
the
also
opening of National Treasure, though.
yes.
It's
Look what we
very
found.
much like
I mean,
that.
tactically, if you think about it, Memento is kind of like that.
Yeah, but that movie, that's the whole structure of the movie.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of fucking with the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I didn't like how the action scenes are filmed in this movie. I didn't like Thor when he flew in the monster's mouth and like went out the other side. That was pretty sick.
That's so silly.
It's pretty. It's
It's cool though.
Yeah, it is cool. And some of the special effects are good and some of them are not. I will say the ice giants, which is a super silly like name
Frost
for them. I wish
giants.
they would just frost giants, whatever they're called. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, right,
yeah.
Just like I will say when they are not CGI nightmares, like they look pretty cool, like with like whatever makeup they did to them and everything.
Yeah.
But then they get into the action scene, it's just like CGI nonsense.
I think the one action scene that works really well in this movie is the one where he is gone to the shield facility to try to get Mjolnir in the
100%,
rain and
yes.
everything. I think that's a really well
work for
done
me. Just a generic
sequence.
and just punching guys out. Like,
But see, I think
but it's
I think
shot
that-
well and it's got atmosphere to it.
and it's not a bunch of CGI monsters punching each other. You know what I mean?
It's
For like
real
10
fight
minutes. It's like real
choreography,
people. Yeah. I agree. I think that was the one scene that really worked for me as far as like action scenes go.
now, I will say one of my favorite one of my favorite jokes is when Thor first comes and lands on Earth and he kind of stumbles about and he's like hammer, hammer, and then Kat Dennings goes, "Yeah, dude, we can see that you're pretty hammered. It's pretty obvious."
Yeah.
The one
There are
joke
some
that
funny
character-
stuff in this movie. Yeah.
the one
There's some
joke
good stuff.
that character makes in the Thor movie that's actually funny. The rest of the jokes he makes in these movies are terrible. I cannot.
I love that she keeps calling the hammer meow meow.
That's
Meow,
pretty,
meow?
okay, that's pretty funny.
I think that's funny.
But the fact that like in the Dark World when like Thor takes Jane up to Asgard and the whole joke is her going holy shit. Like what?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous.
I don't even remember. I think I blocked all that out, to be honest.
I did love her in WandaVision. I thought she was excellent in WandaVision.
She's funny. She's better used in that movie than she is in these.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not even just a character. I just don't like Kat Dennings in general. Like I try to watch Two Broke Girls. I don't find that so funny at all.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either, but I think sometimes she can be really funny. So
yeah, I mean she's hot
Yeah.
now. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but she's not. I just don't find her super funny.
She has her moments. There are brief, fleeting moments here and there. And I mean, I will say, whenever they give Thor the time to shine too, he's got a couple of like nice, fun one-liners and stuff in here too. Like there's a scene with Sif where early on where he's like going through his ranks, which is a pretty generic scene where like he's hesitant to like, oh, you did this, and oh yeah, I'm pepping you all up, and then her comeback to it, and he's like, but I did support you, which is like a nice like little moment for them.
Right.
Well, to me, the funniest moment in the movie is when he walks into the pet store and goes, "I need a horse." It's like, we don't have horses. We have dogs and cats and birds. He's like, well, then give me one of those large enough to ride.
Right.
And you know what's funny? I thought the guy that would play the pet store employee was Eric Andre for the longest time because I'm just
really?
like Afro, but it wasn't him.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it'd be great if it was Eric Andre.
Yeah.
Another really funny scene I like, and this is kind of more like a parody of, or kind of making fun of the whole Thor thing, is when he's in the hospital and he's fighting all the nurses and the doctor or whatever, and he says, "You could never stop the mighty Thor and then like gets like
Yeah.
Yeah.
he just passes out.
But I will say they do that joke like 3 times in a row, and like it's funny the
Yeah.
first time, and then they do it again, and then you're like, oh, and then they do it again, you're like, oh,
Hmm.
because they did it with like that, and then he gets hit by the car, and then there's like another one in there too. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Right.
Yeah. Kenneth Branagh, not a director of comedies, usually.
Yeah,
He's made a few, but they're
yeah.
all Shakespearean comedies, so that's a very different sensibility.
So I like
So,
and I didn't know this obviously. I don't read comics. I remember I watched a video a long time ago, and the name on Natalie Portman's ex-boyfriend name tag is
Mhm.
Donald Blake. In the original Thor comic, I don't know if they ever did this in the newer ones, but when he came to Earth, when he didn't have Mjolnir, he actually turned to like a regular human being.
yeah,
That's
I'd heard that before.
with,
Yeah.
Donald Blake.
Huh.
Hmm.
So that's the name.
That's the name he picks. That's the name he picked. He picked his own name, Donald Blake.
I guess so. I never read a Thor comic.
Okay, all right. I would probably pick a better name.
I
Right.
realize.
That's just me.
Yeah.
If I was Thor.
I love how they make Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, like powerful with like the like the camera angles.
Hmm.
Like they really make it look like it can do some damage and it's really powerful.
Yeah.
But here's my question: if
Mm.
Thor loses his powers when he's not with Mjolnir, how the hell can he outdrink Dr. Selvig or what's his name? Stellan Skarsgård's character? And
Eric.
eat an entire
His first name's Eric. You can call him Eric. Be easier.
yeah, whatever. Eric's
His first name spelled with a K.
okay, so how the hell can he eat an entire box of Pop-Tarts and outdrink Stellan Skarsgård's character without Marnier if he didn't have his power?
You saw him without a shirt on. He's like absolutely jacked. He probably eats that many calories on a regular basis anyway.
Yeah. Well, I know like when you have to prep for these movies, you have to eat a lot of calories, and it's not necessarily like burgers and pizza. It's like pasta.
Oh, so pure protein and carbs and all that sort of stuff. So you could try to like bulk up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not eating
Mhm.
Pop-Tarts probably or drinking beer. He's probably not drinking any alcohol.
Yeah.
But it's a movie too.
And then speaking of him out drinking Skarsgård, I love when they play Walk by the Foo Fighters during the bar scene because Thor is at his lowest low. He has to pull himself up again. I thought that was pretty
Mhm.
interesting. Plus, I love the Foo Fighters. I'm a big Foo Fighters fan. And then I love when the SEALs agents see the Warrior 3, which is Thor's friends, and they say, "Team, we got Xena, Jackie Chan, and Robin Hood." And then I'm thinking to
Yeah.
myself, what, do you forget about Gimli?
Oh yeah.
Well, the other thing they say there is like, is there a Renaissance fair in town?
It's a good gag. It's a good gag.
Yeah.
I do like that they built a lot of this town too, though, for this final fight scene. So it is like a big CGI
Oh, really?
monstrosity.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But they built this town just to destroy it, which is
Mhm.
nice. So at least there's some practical things happening in there. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I like the small town feeling. I'm a sucker for small town stories because I never lived in one. I guess Conway the closest thing, but that's kind of weird because in some parts it feels like a small town. Other parts it feels like Philadelphia or like
Sure.
New England, and then other
Mhm.
parts is kind of in the backwoods. It's a very weird city.
I grew up in a small town. You're not missing anything. It's
Oh,
terrible.
Yeah, I grew up also in a small town.
But I like
There's nothing
watching
there.
all those movies and TV shows like Stranger Things and Jaws and
Sure. Those are so much better than actually living in a small town. You should
Yeah.
just live vicariously.
Just
through
watch the movies. You'll,
yeah, but it just seems like so simple, like everybody. Anyways, if you guys don't have anything else to say, you want to go to favorite part, least favorite part?
I do have one question, and I may have just missed this. So the what's the cube thing that Loki gets at the
Tesseract.
end of it? So
no, that's not the
Tesseract,
Tesseract.
right? Because that was what I was
That's
going to
a-
ask. That's not the
Yeah,
Tesseract,
the Tesseract
right?
is a different thing. Mm-mm.
'Cause
I don't
that is
know what
on
the one
Earth
in this
at that
is.
point. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering that because I was like, what is that thing? That's not the Tesseract because that is because Stark has that at the beginning of or at the end of Captain America, which means he would have been on Earth the entire time for this movie. Which
Yeah,
okay.
Shield has
Just making
had the
sure.
Tesseract since the 90s.
Yeah,
Because we learned that in Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I don't know what that is, and I was just wondering because I was watching
I
it going
have
like,
no
what
idea.
the fuck is that thing? Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's all the question I had.
All right, so I'll go to you, Jackson. What is your favorite thing about this movie?
I think my favorite scene is when he goes into the Shield facility in the rain and he's trying to pull Mjolnir out, from the rock or whatever. And I just like the way that scene is. I mean, the scene where he's fighting off the guys is cool, but then the scene where he's actually in there and he's about to try to pull it out, I just like the way it's shot. I like Chris Hemsworth's performance in that, and just how like angry and sad he is when he can't lift it.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I really like that scene.
I gotta say, my aunt, my mom's sister, freaking loves Chris Hemsworth. Thinks he's the sexiest man alive.
Mhm.
So
Not wrong.
I took a picture of it was like I saw it where like you can really see his muscles bulge out when he's trying to pick up the camera. And I'm like, look at that buff dude.
Mm.
And then she literally texts me, mm-hmm.
Does she like chunky Thor too?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is she? Oh, well then she's gotta see. I mean, if you love one Thor, you gotta love them all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of
He's not a
size.
bad looking guy. He's no Hugh Jackman in mine. But like Hugh Jackman has the total package.
That's fair.
He did my favorite
Yeah, he
movie.
sings and dances and yeah.
Do it all. What can't that man do?
So anyways, Eric, what is your favorite aspect of this movie?
I mean, I would say, and you touched on this earlier, I think the production design, especially all the stuff at Asgard, looks great. All that stuff inside the anytime they're in like one of the big halls or anything like that, all the production design looks amazing. And I think this plays into a lot of like Kenneth Branagh's strengths. And really like most of the Asgard stuff, I'm pretty down for, except for like going to Jotunheim and like fighting the frost giants. All that was kind of silly, but for the most part, like all the stuff on Asgard, I enjoy, and I enjoy less the stuff on Earth, minus the scene at the Shield facility, which I do enjoy that.
So my favorite thing about this movie is actually the main theme. I think it's just so epic. And I loved how like they used it the ba 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 ba. I freaking love that. Like I remember that was like the first time I actually took notice in like with music in the
I would agree, but the first time I did take notice, and I really remembered it this time rewatching again, was Avengers. Like that was the first time I was like, oh, they finally got a theme for some of these characters. Which I thought, I think they get better each movie, but like some of them get pretty muddled. I couldn't tell you what the Iron Man theme is off the top of my head. You know what I mean?
Da 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 da.
I don't know. I just
Sounds
think
like
of the
every other
song
musical
Iron
score.
Man when I
think of right.
So least favorite thing, Jackson?
I think it's just more of the same. Just like some of the stuff on Earth with like Natalie Portman, it's weak.
Okay.
It's just weak. I mean, I like her as an actor, but I think they just give her a nothing character in this movie, and it shows.
Well, especially with her coming off of like Black Swan.
Yeah, she had just won an Oscar for that.
Yeah, it seemed like
was it? Yeah, it was because that came out in 2010, so she had just won an Oscar.
And it seems
for
like
that movie
going the Anne Hathaway route or like the Meryl Streep route, where like they'll do like a hardcore movie, like that's gonna take a lot out of you, and then they do kind of like lighthearted there.
Yeah,
just like Holly Berry
does that all the time. Yeah. Oh God.
Least favorite thing, Jackson. I mean, Eric.
I kind of agree with. I mean, I agree with Jackson. Like, the stuff on Earth is pretty weak, and I think it's just because they try to do almost too much stuff here in a 2-hour movie. Like they're trying to give, like they've got 2 storylines going, and they don't really give enough time to either one. I think the Loki one is a little more set up. Like all the stuff with Asgard is a little more like set up. They spend more time there. And we don't really just get like enough time to like fully realize those other people as characters. They just kind of come off as like pretty one-dimensional, and I think that's probably the least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, my least favorite thing about this movie is, like I said, the act scenes. Like I think they're choreographed fine, they just film kind of boring.
Yeah.
There's nothing like spectacular, compared to like the first two Iron Mans or like the Hulk or the movie we're about to talk about, Captain America. Like it, I think the first Thor had like the least great action scenes, or like some of the worst action scenes, or least memorable action scenes.
Sure.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yep. So before we go on to Captain America: The First Avengers, let's just go around the room real quick and give a rating. So, what is your rating for Thor, Jackson?
It's like a 6.5 out of 10. It's
Well, yeah,
passable.
you're gonna do it out of 5. I mean, I'm doing it out of 5, but you could do it out of 10.
Out of 5. Okay, it's like a 3 out of 5 kind of thing.
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that in our text message.
Okay. No, it's
That's
okay.
cool.
Yeah, it's like a 3.
Okay. Eric.
I'm about a 2.5. 2.5 for the most part. 3 if you just watch the Asgard stuff, probably about a 3.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with a 3.5. I think there's enough that I like here. I love the Shakespearean nature of it. I think the relationship between Natalie Portman and Thor, it's okay. Could have been a little bit better, could have been more fleshed out.
Yeah.
But yeah. But next movie is Captain America: The First Avengers.
Yes.
So the plot synopsis is Steve Rogers, a rejected military soldier, transformed into Captain America after taking a dose of the super soldier serum. But being Captain America comes with a price, as he attempts to take down a warmonger in a terrorist organization. So what is your guys' quick overall thoughts of Captain America: The First Avengers before we get into the deep dive?
This is my favorite movie of Phase 1. Like, definitely my favorite. Number 1 with a bullet. I just love it. I think the story is really strong. I love Chris Evans. I love Haley Atwell as Peggy. Like, the whole supporting cast. It's got a good villain. It's just a really strong, like, adventure film.
Yeah, I love Haley Atwell as this character. Plus he's British, so like I have a thing for British chicks. So real quick before I get to you, Eric, me and Reed were texting and we were assigning like different members of the Fear of God community, like Avengers or Marvel characters or Marvel heroes. So I made myself Spider-Man because I'm a nerd. I made Reed Ant-Man because he kind of looked like Paul Rudd a little bit. I made Nathan Wolverine. If you've seen Nathan, he's like very like hairy. And then I made you Dum Dum Dugan.
Because of the mustache. I mean, hey, I like Dum Dum Dugan.
Yeah.
So what's his name? Neil McDonough is his name, the actor. Yeah, I like him and everything. He's great.
Yeah, I really wanted more from Dum Dum Dugan.
Yeah, it's too bad
he gets a little shortchanged.
One movie. Yeah.
Going back to
I like his little hat.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. But you like watch the special features for this movie. When they talk about like each of the Halloween Commander characters, McDonough basically talked about like he loved playing this character. And he said, he's basically fun loving and like drinking beer. Like I want more of that from you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they still could. They could make a spinoff with whatever happened to him after Cap went into the ice.
Yeah. But
I'd watch it.
Anyways, Eric, what are your quick thoughts about this movie?
It's really good. I mean, coming off the heels of like 3 pretty kind of movies, especially like the Hulk and Iron Man 2. Like this was like a breath of fresh air. Like it's like these movies can work. Like they're great. It's got solid, like it reminds me of Rocketeer, which is a movie I watched a lot as a kid.
It's same director.
Like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
I assume we were going to get into that at some point, but totally get Rocketeer vibes from it. My only, and we'll get into this later. The first half of the movie is stronger than the second half for me, but
that's true.
That's just what it is.
I actually disagree with you this time.
Oh, about the whole? You don't like this movie? You hate
No, I like the whole movie. I like the last.
Okay.
Like Rocketeer, it's like these kind of serial kind of movies. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the part when he kisses Peggy Carter right before he goes to the plane, and then Tommy Lee Jones goes, "I ain't kissing you."
that's a good gag.
Yeah.
That's a nice gag.
Like I said, like I'm a sucker for small town movies. I'm a sucker for everyman stories or every person.
Mhm.
Like, like Harry Potter, even though that's a controversial topic right now.
Yeah.
Rocky,
Well, not the
Spider-Man.
character Harry Potter.
I like
He's cool.
characters that like they just this whole life they're just dealt a bad hand, but they're
Mhm.
good at heart.
Mhm.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
an opportunity comes to be a hero. I just love that because I felt like that all my life. But anyways, let's get into the deep dive for the First Avenger. I find it hard to believe that this Hydra plane has been stuck in the ice with the Captain America shield and Captain America in the iceberg for 70 years or whatever long it's been, and nobody has found it.
I mean, I guess it's in like
Yeah.
Antarctica, so there's a lot of like just wasteland up there. It's just frozen ice.
Yeah,
But
but it's been
I
decades.
think they would have found it. Right. I mean, Stark was already almost there in like the 40s with his little submarine that got the Tesseract. Like, he wasn't probably too
Mhm.
far off from him. So, I mean, yeah, it's a little out there. I don't think you need the scene personally. To me, it just kind of. I would almost start it where we start in the past,
Right.
but that's just my
Yeah.
gut reaction.
Yeah. Well, speaking of them finding the shield in Antarctica, at least they found the Captain American shield and not a shape-shifting alien.
Okay. We
That
have
too.
to stop saying
Yes.
Antarctica. That's
Yeah.
the southern one.
That's his
They're
other
in
one.
the
It's northern one.
Arctic.
Arctic.
Yes. The Arctic.
People are gonna get so
It's gonna
mad.
drive me insane if y'all keep saying Antarctica.
So in Antarctica,
Oh god.
Yeah. That's where they should put the next Ant-Man movie and just call it Ant-Man the Wasp in Antarctica.
Oh god, that would be.
But anyways,
Oh god.
I actually really love the intro to Red Skull. I think you tell a lot about his character through
Mhm.
that. Like
Mhm.
any good character intro. Red Skull finds the Tesseract, and the old guy basically says that's not for the eyes of ordinary men. And Red Skull goes, exactly. And I like that how that ties into the theme of power. Because
Mhm.
Red Skull wants
Mhm.
godlike power to rule the universe with an iron fist. But Steve Rogers, Captain America, wants his newly found power of Captain America to better the world because he's pure at heart.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great intro. Plus, there's no better villain than a
Mhm.
Nazi because they're unredeemable.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Feel
right
free to
before.
hate this person.
Yeah, you're right. And they call it Hydra, but we know he's a
Yeah.
Nazi. He's at least a Nazi sympathizer. It's ridiculous. Yeah, punch him.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that right before we did our Kroll and Les review. We were talking about me watching Inglourious Bastards, and you're like, yeah, that's the easiest thing to hate is Nazis because they're
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Easiest villain to make. You make a character a villain, a Nazi, easy. You don't even have to give him backstory then. You can
killing
just
Nazis.
they're a Nazi.
Plus, it's harkening back to like Indiana Jones movies and
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. Let's circle around to Joe Johnston for just a second, the director
Yes.
of this movie.
Oh no, I want to
What
say
do
one more
y'all?
thing about
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and say your thing.
I'm so kind of getting sidetracked. I love how the old guy basically said, "You cannot control your power you have; you will burn." Going back to that's the whole power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Sure, and he technically does burn at the end. I mean, kind of. He mostly just kind of like disintegrates and gets shot across the universe.
Right.
But
And I thought it was kind of interesting how, and I just noticed this when I watched this last week. Whole Steve Rogers does everything in his power to get enlisted in the army.
He keeps going to different recruiting offices, and yeah,
and it's really weird to see a skinny Chris Evans because you know him as like this big buff guy.
Yeah, but it looks really good. Like
it
that
does.
effect
I was going to say
holds
that.
up.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
very
Holds up.
believable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess this is coming off of like Benjamin Button, which came out like I think 2 years before that, which kind of like pioneered that sort of like facial tracking thing, but holds up really well. I haven't watched this movie in a long while, and so I was really ready to kind of hate it because it's been so long
Mhm.
since I saw it. I was like, it's probably not going to hold up as well as I thought it is. Visually, still amazing. Like, I
Mhm.
believe it. There's only like a few shots where you can kind of see like the edges don't quite line up, but
Mhm.
solid effect.
But
Okay.
yeah, your thing with Joe
Johnson.
Johnson.
Okay, Joe Johnson. What do y'all know about this guy? Do y'all know about like
Uh,
his career? He's had a
Yeah,
crazy career.
yeah, he worked
it's wild.
for George Lucas for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Star
he
Wars.
was like a special effects guy. But he's the guy that designed the Millennium Falcon.
Really?
Didn't know
I did
that.
not
That's
know
Yeah.
wild.
He
I
designed
know.
he designed Boba Fett's armor.
Sick, man. That's cool.
Yeah, no. He's had an awesome career, and that's before he was a director, and then he was gonna just leave the industry. He was kind of tired and burnt out. And this is actually on a documentary that's on Disney Plus about the history of ILM.
Mm.
But he
Mm.
says like he was getting ready to leave the industry, and George Lucas pulls him aside and is like, "Have you ever thought about like going to film school and like starting to direct your own stuff?" And he's like, "I don't know." And George Lucas is like, "Look, if you want to go to film school, I'll keep you on at ILM at half pay, and I'll pay your tuition to film school."
Not bad.
So he goes to film school and he makes a thesis film, and that's what gets him his first directing job on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Drunk the kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, the guy's had like a crazy career, and he's made some really
Yeah.
good movies. So
So
yeah,
I got a trivia question for you. You said he designed the Millennium Falcon and
yeah.
the Bubble Butt armor. What iconic animated character did Joe Johnson also design?
What iconic animated character?
The Page Master?
Well, I'll tell you what. The
He
movie
did
that
direct the Page Master.
Yeah, he
the movie
did.
that me and Eric reviewed like early on.
I don't know which one.
The Iron Giant.
Did he? I didn't know
Oh,
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
That
well, I
makes sense.
included that
Okay.
in that Brad Bird video that we did.
That was so
Okay.
long ago.
But yeah, but Johnston has always been really good at like making sort of these throwback films. Like he's very good at like Americana. That's why The Rocketeer works. This movie, October Sky, which he made.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I didn't know. I forgot he directed October Sky. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's maybe his best movie. That's a
Talk
really
about
great
small
movie.
talent. Yeah. October Sky is great. Holds up.
Yep.
I have to say, I actually believe Dominic Cooper more as Tony Stark's father than John Slattery. Because for one, he actually looks like Robert
He
Downey
looks like
Jr.
him, yeah.
Yeah.
Mannerism down to a T. But
Well, yeah, when he's doing that presentation with the flying car, it's like watching Tony Stark
Right.
do
like
a
And it's a
presentation.
right. It's a nice toss back to those Stark expos that were in Iron Man and Iron Man 2. Like those are like this is where they got started. This is where they got started doing them was at the World's Fair. It's good. It's a nice little inside joke.
I like how he's like a 1940s version of Tony Stark.
Do you fondue?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, just kissing crackers, my friend. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a fondue with Haley Atwell.
I'll eat cheese any day. So
Yeah, and then I love Stan Tucci's character. I thought he was a really cool mentor, Dr. Ernstein.
Erskine, yeah.
Erskine. Yeah.
Very German, very German.
Very German.
Yeah.
The scene where they have the drink. Well, he has a drink and Steve almost has a drink. Like that's a really good scene. It works really well. And it really sets up like Steve's plight. And it's got like a nice little button at the end where like, no, you can have a drink. I'm gonna drink it now. It's good. It's a nice little comedic beat. Like this one, it hits its comedy beat so much better than Thor.
It like mirrors the relationship between Tony Stark and Jensen.
Yep.
In the cave, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very deliberate on their part. Of course, you know, Marvel, they have a formula. They do the same things over and over and over again. Right. But I think to show like Cap and Tony, you know, they're the two pillars of the first three phases, and to give them both sort of that scientist's character that kind of like motivates
ushers them along
into their mission. Yeah. Right. I like the parallelism of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I liked how that character basically tells Steve Rogers why he was chosen for the Super Soldier program by saying, because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of strength. and he knows compassion.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that really strikes home today with a lot of the stuff that's going on politically, which I won't get into, but
Yeah.
I mean, but along those lines, I think it's always been going on. Like, I don't think there's anything new about this or with this movie or nowadays. So, like,
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
we
why
just
this
know
movie
more
works,
about it now because of
right?
the internet.
But I think yeah, that's true too. But I think that's why this movie works sort of universally. Is that I think you could probably watch this movie 20 years from now and it would still hold up.
And then another Ernstein line that I like is when he says, "We take not another step towards annihilation, but a first step into peace," which is weird because you would think with technological advancements like the atomic bomb, it would end war. But people start war or uses it like to start other war because, like, if you think about it, World War One was like mustard gas. Basically, they thought that was gonna be the last war. It was even called the Great War.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then we had WW2.
I mean, a nuclear bomb is just a deterrent, basically. Like, it is not like it's just to basically keep other people from attacking.
I loved how the first Captain America comic is recreated with them basically punching out Hitler.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, all that USO stuff is so nice because it undermines, like, it's basically just setting you up that, like, oh, he's gonna become a hero now, and then he's like, nope, this is how he just becomes
he's a
this USO
mascot.
like actor. Yeah, it's a mascot. It's great. It's so good.
Right.
And it's got that really catchy song by Alan Menken that's very much like an
Oh,
old school,
Alan
like
Menken?
George M. Cohan kind of like patriotic song. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I love Alan Menken and Howard Ashman.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Alan Menken still is. Howard Ashman was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in
I mean,
peace.
yeah, those guys were like my childhood right there because I remember watching like
sure.
and Beauty and the Beast and all that stuff.
Mhm.
What I really loved about the whole propaganda scene was the fact that in real life, Captain America wasn't really created to be this big iconic character. He was basically made to buy war bonds.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially. And then he just became this character, like what his character is in this movie. He basically was created to sell war bonds.
I didn't know that. That's a great, like, parallel. That makes me like
Yeah,
the
total
first half of this movie
propaganda.
even more.
Love the train scene. I thought that was a lot of fun. Very
You
similar.
gotta love a train heist.
Yeah, it's very similar to Uncharted 2, because I'm a big Uncharted fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Never
Uncharted,
actually played any of the Uncharted
I've never
movies.
played them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Here's my question. So the cap shield is made out of vibranium, which you find in Wakanda. But the whole point of Wakanda is that it's blocked off until after the events of the first Black Panther, right? How in the actual hell did they get the vibranium?
I don't know.
Well, he did say that was all that was on Earth. So, I mean, I assume that there's other vibranium elsewhere.
because I thought he said that too, but he says that it's all they had.
Oh,
So obviously they got their hands on a little bit of vibranium somehow.
Right.
We don't know how. I don't think it's that important. And honestly, I don't think they were thinking that far ahead when they made this movie.
no.
So
They're like,
they didn't know
we
that,
go.
7 years later they would have Black Panther and it would be a huge hit. So yeah.
So did you see the last Black Panther, either one of you?
Yeah,
I haven't seen Wakanda Forever yet. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think there's like a plot point in there that kind of maybe helps explain it. But
oh, maybe I'd have to see it again. I'll watch it again when we review it.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
I'll text you it. Jackson.
In like a year.
Hugo Weaving is absolutely perfect as Red Skull.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was what I was saying about that a lot of these villain characters, like their backstory isn't that interesting, and they're not went in very deeply. But the actor is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, the way he's written is the most generic Nazi villain. I mean, he's even got the most generic German name. It's Johann Schmidt.
Schmidt. Yep. Which is basically just John Smith of German.
Yeah. German. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was the whole point of that's what comics did back in the day. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's archetypes. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Sure.
like
And it plays well for the into this movie. Yeah.
well, that was like what was so going back to the like why with Marvel or I get that time timely was kind of progressive was that like they had their character Captain America fight Nazis way before we even like got
That's
involved.
true.
He's saying like, hey, we need to get involved in this. Like Nazis are
Mhm.
Nazis are bad people. They're always bad.
kidnapping the Jews and they're coming for other people too. So we need to stop them
Yeah.
right now.
Did you ever read? Have either of y'all ever read the book "The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay"?
Now,
No,
never heard of it.
never
You
heard
should
of it.
read it. It's an amazing book. It's like
Okay.
500 pages long. It's a thick one, but it's written
Okay.
by Michael Chabon. But it's about these two like Jewish cousins who create a comic book character, and it definitely it's got Superman parallels, but it also has Captain America parallels because the character eventually goes and fights the Nazis in the comics, and
Yeah.
then one of the creators of the comic book joins the war, and it's like a really epic story. It's really awesome if you are interested in like World War II and the history of comic books, stuff like
Right.
that.
That's interesting that you brought that up because I feel like with Joe Simon, I think Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby, with them being Jewish, I think
Mhm.
maybe creating Captain America and having them fight Nazis would maybe a bit of catharsis for them.
Well, I don't think
Sure.
they weren't the ones that created Captain America because they didn't. Well, they weren't working until like the '60s with Stan Lee and stuff like that. Captain America, they basically brought him back because
Right.
the character
Right.
disappeared for a long time, and in the
I know
'60s
Joe
during the
Simon
Vietnam
was-
era. Yeah, he might have been one of the original creators, but
I
like
looked it up.
Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, those guys, they didn't create Captain America. They just brought him back during the Vietnam War, and that's where you get the story of him like getting thawed out of the ice and stuff like that.
Right.
Right, and
Yeah.
he wasn't even like one of the original Avengers. Like he didn't sell up till like issue like 3 or 4.
Hmm.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Jack Kirby that was one of the creators. I just looked it up.
Of the original Captain America, or did he?
Yeah, the
was
original.
one of the creators of the. Okay, I didn't know he was working that far back.
Yeah, I think I knew.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
didn't
thought
think-
he was working more in like the '50s and '60s, but yeah.
Yeah, so one more thing before we get to favorite part and least favorite part, and then we'll do Avengers and then we'll do our top 5
Sure.
thing.
Mhm.
I love when Cap is fighting the Hydra agent from the plane that's dropping the bomb,
Mm.
and he's trying to stop the agent from dropping the bomb,
Mhm.
and he's fighting another
Mhm.
agent or another henchman,
Mhm.
and he throws him the propeller. That is very Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Definitely
yeah.
just that fight. Yeah, from Raiders where the guy gets like hit with a propeller. It's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
Joe Johnston, he worked on those movies. He did special effects
Oh, yeah,
for
for sure.
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
And I'm definitely looking forward to what James Mangold does with Indy. But why
Yeah.
can't you get Joe Johnston? He would have been an even better director.
Joe Johnston would have been an amazing choice for that. He would have been
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I love the idea of Rogers waking up in modern day, the modern world, like in that hospital or whatever.
Mhm.
And he thinks it's the 40s again, and they play the baseball game. But
Yeah,
wouldn't you
what-
want to play a baseball game from a time where after he got lost or got stuck in the ice?
Hey, they just missed that detail,
Yeah.
Even
And it's
Shield
also
messes up sometimes.
that's true, but that's also such a weird scene too. Like, what was their play here? Like, they were gonna like trick him into thinking
No,
it
they're gonna
wasn't,
eat
and then they were gonna be like
everything.
reveal
Yeah,
it.
I mean
I
that's
don't
what
know.
Nick Fury says is like we just wanted to ease you into things, and
I guess it
Yeah.
just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's
it
just
is
kind of like,
weird, but it makes for
eh.
a good scene.
Well,
Yeah,
I wanted
so-
him to interact with the modern world. Like, give me like 2 minutes.
The ending of this movie though is such an amazing gut punch.
Yeah.
Because he realizes how much time has passed, and then he's just like,
Mhm.
I had a date. And it's so sad.
Right. Yeah, and then he dances with Pretty Carter at the end of Endgame, which really got me right here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's perfect.
No, it's what makes all of that worthwhile.
Favorite thing, least favorite thing, Jackson.
My favorite thing in the whole movie is the grenade scene. It's so good. It's just so good.
He's so
Like, it
skinny.
establishes his character. It shows, the other people in the unit and his officers, like, this is the guy,
Mm.
because he's little and skinny and he's not good at running the obstacle courses or whatever, but he's so brave and he's
Mm.
willing to do anything to protect the
Mm.
people around him. It's so good. I love it.
Eric,
Least favorite? I don't have a least favorite. I love this movie.
Eric's favorite thing and least favorite thing.
Favorite thing, I really love the first half of this movie. Up until he frees all the soldiers, it's like a perfect movie. And honestly, the movie probably could have ended there for me. I think the second half, like you were saying, there's a lot of just more vignette type scenes.
Mhm.
And I think it becomes more apparent that Steve doesn't have an arc in those.
Mhm.
And so I think it just gets a little harder to like, it just feels like almost the same scene over and over sometimes. But the first half of the movie is perfect. Perfect first half of the movie. And if I was nitpicking anything, it's that we don't give Agent Carter enough to do by the end.
Yeah.
True.
She just kind of like she's just in the car and she kisses him at the end. I was like, that's all she was there for. And I was like, it's a nice
Right.
moment, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, she wish she would have like shot somebody in the face or something. But
Mm.
that's just me.
She almost shoots Steve in the face in that one
She
scene.
does.
Oh yeah. When you're testing out the shield.
Right.
But my favorite scene in this movie, or my favorite thing in this movie, is the train scene. Like I said, very Uncharted
Yeah.
2.
Sure.
Least favorite thing, like I said, they would have figured out a better way for him to know or realize he was in the mono world. So rating real quick, and then we'll get to the Avengers.
This is like a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Like, and it's very nearly a 5. I really love this movie.
Eric?
I'm a solid 4. It is, to me, it's right under Iron Man. But it's like neck and neck as far as like phase 1 goes. Like these two are like head and shoulders above everything else that came out in this phase for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4.5. I freaking love this
Nice.
movie.
It's good.
All right.
Solid. It's the one movie in the Marvel in this phase 1 that I was kind of like, because they'd been down for so long that like this is the one that was like,
Yeah.
they can really do this. They're gonna pull it together.
Yeah. Well, we're at the big one. Bum.
Where they pull it together.
Bum.
Where they pull it together.
What have I done?
Bum, 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 ba, bum,
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 bum.
All right, plot
That's
synopsis
it.
for the Avengers. Earth-minded heroes must come together and learn to fight as a team if they're going to stop the mischievous Loki and his alien army from enslaving humanity.
That's the plot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what is everybody's thoughts about this movie?
I mean, when it came out, like, this was a mind-blowing, like, pop culture moment. Like, this was the first time this had ever been done before. And, it could have very easily been bad. But it's not. It's a good movie. I don't think it's as good as what would follow, but this proves the experiment is working. So yeah,
I would agree 100%. It's a perfectly fine movie. It does everything it needs to do fine. It doesn't take any risks really, which is fine too.
No.
But you're right, it does. It kind of sets up everything that comes after, and for that, it works perfectly well.
I like this movie too. I remember this was like the biggest movie in my school. Like everybody was talking about it. I remember I bought that shirt like a couple weeks prior, to get ready for this movie. And I remember my drama teacher at the time, Mr. S, basically saw me wear the shirt and he says, "Oh, you excited for the Avengers?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I'm a big fan of the comics." And we just started talking about like Marvel and all that stuff.
Nice.
And he was telling me that he one of his favorites was Civil War, and he asked me to let me borrow the Civil War comic.
Marvel bringing people together.
Anyways, I love the foreshadowing at the beginning of this movie, where basically that one character he's talking to Thanos about his ally Loki, and it's one of those things where like it's interesting to see it now, knowing that kind of perspective that we have.
Sure.
We know it's Thanos, and we know that's one of his henchmen. And you gotta love Alan Silvestri scored the dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Totally forgot
it's the
it.
first really iconic musical moment of the MCU, I'd say.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's the reason there's a reason they play it at the beginning of most of the Marvel movies now.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, well, and then like, well, at the end of Infinity War, they kind of play, but they don't do it with the bombast. They do it with the penal version because it's summer.
Sure, right, because they lost. At the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Spoilers, sorry.
Yeah. And then I love Natasha's Black Widow's intro, which we didn't even talk about her in Iron Man 2. But she's interrogated by the Russians. Agent Coulson calls her, and the Russians take the phone call. And that's the funniest change. And the guy, she's like, this guy's giving everything he's got. And then catch the guy going, I'm not giving everything I got.
It's a nice character beat for her, and it also sets up her turn later with Loki, which is really nice, which is something that don't do a lot in especially in this movie, is like giving longer characters, or like basically setups and payoffs sort of thing. Which is nice that they do it with her, which is because she hasn't had her own movie yet, and so they don't do it a lot with like some of the major characters because they've already had like full movies to themselves. So they do nice stuff with her.
She didn't get Bruce. A fucking movie until he dies.
Yeah. That's
just
the worst injustice.
Yeah.
It's really unfair.
I thought the movie was in that
character. Yeah, it would have been better if they had made it like in 2014.
Yeah,
they
should have. It should have came out like not too long after Winter Soldier. It would have made more sense.
Yeah, or 2017 because it takes in between Civil War and.
Sure, whenever, but yeah. But at that point, it had just lost all the steam.
I love Ruffalo's nervous energy that Norton did not have at all, because I just feel like he hit it flat.
It's so much better a Bruce Banner than we've gotten before. Eric Banner's not bad, but it's so much better than the Norton version. Yeah,
like he did this weird thing with his hands throughout the movie where he kind of like not I guess like he stems. He kind of like twirls his fingers a lot when he's nervous.
Yeah, he's nervous. He's a very nervous character, and of course he is. Any point he could get upset.
He could just be set off.
Destroy everything.
I love that. And I love when Coulson tells Cap that Banner is like Stephen Hawking. When
he doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, and then Captain gets confused, and he's like, and then Coulson's like, he's like a real smart person.
It's a nice little character beat.
And then you have the whole like fanboy, like him fanboying.
Oh, the trading cards. Yeah, I love that. I love Coulson.
Yeah. Which is nice. That's a nice like throw. It's not necessarily a throwaway scene. I guess it's pretty important to the plot. The cards play basically those trading cards are like a major plot point in what sets the Avengers onto their path, which is kind of weird. Again, it's amazing.
It's a setup and payoff thing.
Well, apparently Coulson's death was supposed to be a little bit more graphic, but they have to made it into an R rating, which is fucking bizarre to me.
It's pretty violent. I mean, he gets stabbed straight through the chest, so you can see it come out the front.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a pretty brutal death.
One thing I've noticed over the years, that 3 out of the 6 Avengers are connected to each other somehow. So Captain America and Iron Man, they're connected through Howard Stark, because they know each other. Hulk and Cap, the Super Soldier Serum, and then Stark and Banner, the Science Bros.
Natasha and Clint, they're old friends. He's the one that extracted her from the Black Widow program, and
and she worked for Stark. She worked for Stark in 2, so which we skipped over too. But I mean, they're all like, they've all been kind of circling each other's universes for a little bit.
I think this is the point where we should talk a little bit about the director of this film.
Oh God.
It's Joss Whedon, who we have learned in recent years is not a nice person. Like, he's apparently very abusive to his actors and stuff like that. And a lot of people have come out and talked about it at this point. People who have worked with him in the past. But you know what? I mean, guy can write a script.
True.
I mean, there's a reason this movie has such good setups and payoffs, is because he's very good at doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say
So
the one thing I do think is lacking from the script is uh, what is Loki's motivation for? I mean, they kind of set it up that he just wants to be king, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, he
yeah,
can't
that
be king
it?
of Asgard, so might as well switch over and try to be the king of Midgard. You know,
yeah.
feels so
There's nothing
thin.
difficult
It
about it,
feels
Eric.
just
it's
I
very
don't know. It
thin,
feels
but
so thin. It's just, but it works. It works. I concede that it works. But it's just like watching it this time. And this is probably like the third or fourth time I've seen it. I was kind of like, eh, what he does? He just wants to be king. I'm like, okay, I guess
yeah,
that works.
And
well, it's
I
one of those things
just
where
can't
like,
wait to be king.
oh goodness, it works because Tom Hiddleston makes it work.
True. That's true.
Like
He does
he's
have
got such deep wells of charisma.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes, and his dialogue here is so much more well written than it was in Thor, which sometimes was pretty laughable.
right. And
Well, and that goes back to Joss Whedon.
Yeah,
You know, Joss Whedon is known for his dialogue, and sometimes he goes a little far with it.
sure.
Sometimes his turns of phrase can be borderline ridiculous,
right.
Yes, of
but it works for a comic book movie for sure because
course. Oh yeah.
he keeps it light, he keeps it moving along at a good clip. There's banter going back and forth, and you get moments like that man is playing Galaga, you know.
I love the part when Loki invades the art museum. Cause that's like
Mhm.
straight out of like Clockwork Orange and like Silence of the
Mhm.
Lambs, where like it's like very elegant. There's elegant music being played in the
Mhm.
background,
Mhm.
but like something fucked up is happening. Like
Yeah,
usually he takes like that drill, like
Right.
the guy.
What are they
he's
stealing
wearing that
there?
great suit.
He
Mm,
does have a great suit.
Yeah.
What are they stealing there though? Like, what is it? Because he
I
needs
don't
the eye
remember.
to
Shit,
get.
man.
Like, they never really. You see Selznick, you
I
see
don't
Selznick
know.
like putting it into the machine, but they never like talk about like what it is.
Oh, I think he's stealing. I think he's stealing like a diamond or something because he needs the diamond to like put into the machine to make the sky beam or
Mm.
something like that.
Okay.
It like
Okay.
refracts the beam, or I think it's something stupid. It's stupid.
Right.
Right.
This is
Right. Right.
another. This is a blue sky beam movie. Make no mistake. It's
Yeah.
this
Right.
is
Shooting a
one of
beam in the
the.
sky. Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I think this is the moment where blue sky beam becomes a cliche.
Can I say? Can I say? I prefer Captain America's suit in the previous movie to this one.
Oh yeah,
I
this
know
looks
this
Oh
one's
yeah,
probably closer
definitely.
to the comics, but this one just looks real silly by comparison. Like,
It's pretty cartoonish.
mm,
Yeah.
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 Whereas
Um,
in the first one, it looks more like an actual military, like
Right.
yes.
functional uniform.
Yep.
Mm.
This they try to make it look a little bit too comic booky. They fix it
Hmm.
in later movies, like
They do.
Winter
They
Soldier.
fix
He's
it.
got a great suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they
But
It's like
yeah,
they
this
learned their
one
lesson
is just a
immediately.
little
Yeah.
bit too. It's a little bit
Too
too
much.
bright.
It's too
Yeah.
blue.
right.
Yeah.
Well, they easily could have done that with the Wonder Woman movie, but that's a bit different when she's like a goddess basically. So like you have
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
make her stand out from the soldiers that she's fighting
Hmm.
with.
It's true.
Speaking
I
of,
was fine with the Wonder Woman one, but this
um
one just, I don't know.
yeah, speaking of Cap, I love the part when the older gentleman basically tells Loki like there's always men like you, referring to like Hitler,
Oh
basically.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and
Hmm.
then
that's terrific.
Loki's about to kill him, and then Cap comes in and protects him with the shield, and he says, "You know, last time I was in Germany and saw a man stand above everybody else, we ended up disagreeing. Pretty awesome line. I like that.
Yeah, I
Sci-Fi.
really love that scene. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie. So you kind of stepped on it, but it's okay.
Well, I have a different favorite scene from the movie.
Yeah.
And then the Shakespeare in the Park line, and then the Point Break line.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
like classic.
That's Joss Whedon. That's Whedonese for you.
Does Modus know you wear her drapes? And no offense, Point Break, but you got a mean swing. And then I love how Cap tells Stark that you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you, which is
Mhm.
more
Yeah.
foreshadowing towards Endgame.
Yeah,
I will
because we
say,
already know that Cap is that guy.
Right.
right.
He dove on a grenade that he thought was going to go off. Yeah.
True.
It was smart. It was a smart play to do this movie with basically them fighting each other at the top of it, versus like a full-on villain, because one, it sets up the dynamics a lot better, and it would just probably get boring if they were just fighting like the Chitauri over and over throughout the movie. This is like a fun way to keep it interesting, and it like makes for some like snappy little dialogue that they can have between each other. Because like, in honesty, the Chitauri, they're pretty bland. Like, in honesty, like the end of the movie just kind of like.
Well, I love how, and this has got to be a Josh Whedon thing. I love how when the Hulk lands in that farmhouse and it's Henry Dean Stanton from Alien, and he thinks he's an alien. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah,
I love all Harry Dean Stanton.
That had to be hey Josh Whedon like thing right there.
Maybe. I mean, just the Harry Dean Stanton's one a badass, and you should watch every movie he's in.
Well, Josh Whedon might as well came up on screen and basically was like, huh? Get it? Dude,
Harry Dean.
And then I mean, we can't talk about this movie without talking about the part when the Hulk smashes Loki. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then just cuts to Loki just standing there. He's like,
oh. I will say,
the Hulk
like, this
gets so many great moments in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. So he gets so much in this one that he didn't even need a standalone movie with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, they finally got the Hulk right in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys got nothing else to say, you want to go into favorite part, least favorite?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
I'll just go first, Eric.
Favorite part, it's really probably like as cool as the end is, and like seeing them all fight together. The Chitauri is just kind of like a boring stand-in for like basically things that they can punch and kill without it like fighting like a regular villain. You know what I mean? Like Loki's like the villain of the movie, but like and I'm just like this is where they really set it up that they do for like every movie after this, basically.
I mean, almost every movie ever with henchmen is like with a bunch of different henchmen.
Yeah,
it's basically cannon fodder. I mean, minus like something like Die Hard or like Violent Night, but that's like a limited amount of henchmen. I'm talking about like a whole army.
Army.
Like John Wick, for instance.
Sure.
But that's just cannon fodder.
I just don't care. That's the only thing. It's like, I don't care about the
I will say though.
Well, I mean, you don't care about the
even
people
though
trying to kill John Wick in the nightclub either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just something about like setting up a prime villain and then just I don't know. It becomes more. This is not as bad as some of the further movies down this MCU, which we'll get to. But that's probably my least favorite thing is that our final showdown is with just sort of like faceless villains for the most part. But other than that, like it's a fun time.
I will say what works about that final battle is you get a lot of these little scenes where like they're doing like combo attacks and like they're teaming up.
Oh yeah, I love that.
It's cool. Like, Hulk shoves the piece of metal into the thing and then Thor hits it with the hammer and drives it in. And like, you get nice little moments like that with the heroes, which is not something we've been able to see yet because this is the first time they're really teaming up to do this sort of thing.
And this is really like seeing a movie like this, seeing this movie in theaters and really like Marvel movies going forward. It's like really fun seeing it with a crowd. Like those scenes you're talking about, like people like cheer.
People
in the theaters,
cheer.
And it's wild. It's great.
Right. So what's your favorite part, Eric?
Favorite part. Oh man, I hadn't even thought about this. I really like the along with what Jackson was saying earlier, like the fight early on where they're outside the museum. Any of that stuff that doesn't become like super CGI heavy, where they're actually like really fighting, like all that stuff's great.
You go, Jackson. Least favorite part, favorite part.
Least favorite part, like I feel like some of the setup at the beginning could be trimmed down a little bit. Like it takes a little while, especially the scene in the like shield facility where they're, playing around with the Tesseract and Loki comes out. It's very cheesy. It's not well shot. Like and I know a lot of people felt like this when they went to see the movie the first time they saw that first scene and they're like, oh, is this what this movie is? And people getting real antsy. And then the movie gets
Yeah.
better after that. But
Right.
yeah, some of that early stuff, exception being maybe like the Black Widow introduction in the movie.
Yeah.
Some of it's just kind of like whatever. Favorite part. Well, I mean, we mentioned the old man standing up to Loki. I think that's a really great moment. But I will go with I'd love when Iron Man carries the nuke up into space and then he's falling back through the wormhole or whatever, and Hulk catches him.
Mm.
You
And he's
know?
like, "You kiss me," or something like that.
Yeah, but it's just really cool to watch like the Hulk save Iron Man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
I
the
love
whole
that.
shawarma thing that was just really fun.
Yeah, shawarma.
Yeah.
I still
What is
don't know what
shawarma?
shawarma is.
I don't know what
I
it
have
is
no
either.
idea.
Every time I watch this movie, I'm like, I'm gonna look it up, and I never do.
I
Well,
never do either.
apparently people I can't remember what part in the climactic battle scene this is at, but you actually see the restaurant in the background during one of the shots.
Oh. Huh.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
My favorite part is the last 20 minutes, especially that one continuous shot when it's Iron Man and he goes down on the Grand Central Station bridge, and like he shoots his crusher blast on Cap Shield and it blows the entire airway. He like goes up in the building and he starts like smacking or like slamming like Atari in the building. I just like all the team up combo stuff like what you're saying, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, and there's like a system that you get to do that with, which was a lot of fun. And to actually see that on screen was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Least favorite part, Cap's outfit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that great.
Yeah. So let's just go do a rating real quick, and then we'll get to movie rating and then villain rating. And we have we're doing something special about that. So what is your rating for this movie?
Mine, it's a solid 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric.
Mine's like mine's about 3.5. I don't think it's the best thing out of the MCU. I think a lot better things come along later. It's probably why it's so low, but
yeah, that's fair. I'm gonna go with a 4. Yeah. I think in retrospect, I think when it first came out, I would have given it a 5, but now seeing everything in retrospective.
Yeah, true.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's phase 1. That was a lot of fun. Moving on to the next segment. One thing I do want to do is I want to rank all the movies, and I want to do a villains ranking too. And Jackson did a thing where we sent our rankings to him, and he tallied them up to do like an overall ranking.
Yes, I devised a point system. It's a very simple point system.
Yeah, so we're gonna
you should have said it was real complicated. You should have like made a whole chart that you bring out.
It was like there were algorithms and
a Venn diagram of all this. Yeah.
So
took me hours.
So real quick, we'll go around the room and we'll just say our rankings for the movies, and then after that, you can give us the tally. So I'll let you go first.
Okay.
So start from your least favorite to your favorite.
So least favorite. This is not going to be a surprise. Number 6, Incredible Hulk. Number 5, Iron Man 2. Number 4 is Thor. Let's see. Number 5. Wait.
Number 3.
No, wait. Number 3. Sorry, I got confused for a second there. That would be Avengers, the first. And number 2 is Iron Man, and number 1 is Captain America, the First Avenger.
Oh, cool. You, Eric, what is your ranking for phase 1?
It is almost exactly the same, except 1 and 2 are switched. Like mine goes Incredible Hulk at the bottom, Iron Man 2, Thor, Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man.
Okay, mine's basically the same too. Number 6, Hulk. 5, Iron Man 2, 4, Thor. 3, Captain America. 2, Avengers, and 1, Iron Man. All
right. So I did the tallies, and collectively as a group, we all had Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2 at the bottom.
Surprise.
Then Thor came in at number 4. Okay. Avengers came in at number 3. Captain America came in at number 2. Y'all both ranked it second, I believe. No, you
I
didn't.
ranked my third.
I was the only one that ranked that one first. And then Iron Man, y'all both ranked it number 1, and I ranked it number 2. But that's still 1.
Okay.
So
cool. And then we're gonna do the villains real quick.
All right. So y'all's lists were a little different.
I imagine they were, yeah.
Because Drew included a couple that Eric didn't have, and Eric included one that Drew didn't have. I was the only one that voted on all of the villains that y'all both listed.
Good.
So let me go. I'll let you go first, Eric.
Okay. Who did I miss? We'll find out here soon. So very bottom is Chitauri. I hate him. They're just CGI nothings. Then it goes Abomination, Whiplash, Loki from the Avengers, then Obadiah Stane, then Loki from Thor.
Yeah,
Red
that was
Skull.
a little tricky right there.
Yeah, and then Red Skull,
one.
and then my favorite one, and I'd watch, it's not one of my favorite movies, but I'd watch him in anything. I would watch Justin Hammer sell me weapons any day of the week.
So yeah, Chitauri was the one that Eric included that Drew did not have.
Okay.
So, because it's not really a villain, it's just
it's
like an army of henchmen. But yeah,
I guess
enough.
so, yeah.
But I also put them at the bottom. Then Drew actually included Anim Zola from Captain America.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
one that Eric didn't have. So, but I put that as my next to the bottom. And then moving up from there, Thunderbolt Ross. That's another one that Eric didn't have that Drew included.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, he did not include
way
Thunderbolt
higher
Ross.
than yours.
Yeah, yeah, he ranked Thunderbolt really high. Then moving up from there, we have Whiplash, Abomination, Obadiah Stane, then Red Skull. Then Justin Hammer was my number 2, and then I ranked Loki as number 1.
Right. So my ranking is number 8, Arnim Zolo. Just I thought just generic character, very not memorable.
He's better used in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
7, Whiplash. Like what Rourke did with it, but he just was just given a bad hand. 6, Abomination. Slightly more memorable and more fleshed out than Whiplash. 5, Obadiah Stane, because it's Jeff Bridges, and I love Jeff Bridges. And I love how he was sort of like the opposite of Stark, and I like the relationship between them. Justin Hammer, slightly more entertaining than Stane, just by like a metric, just slightly, by like 1.1%. More entertaining. 3, Thunderbolt Ross. I thought William Hurt was like that character straight out of the comics with his booming voice, and he even looked like him. Doesn't even look like William Hurt in real life, which is like the freaky part about it. Number 2, Red Skull. Hugo Weaving's amazing, and then of course number 1 gotta be Loki.
So that means that going from the bottom, this list includes 9 villains total. We went with number 9, Chitauri, number 8, Zola, number 7, Thunderbolt Ross, number 6, Whiplash, number 5, The Abomination, number 4, Obadiah Stane, number 3, Justin Hammer. Strong showing for Justin Hammer here. Number 2, Red Skull, and number 1, Loki. And I did not differentiate between the 2 movies like Eric did. So I keep wanting to call Drew Eric and Eric Drew. I know the difference between you, but I keep wanting to say the wrong name.
Just do whatever you feel, what feels appropriate. I'll answer to anything.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I liked that. I know we went on for like 2 hours.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
These are only probably going to get longer too.
It's a big, I mean, it's a very important part of the MCU. This is where it starts to all come together and make a coherent franchise. So yeah, you got to spend a little bit more time.
Next episode of MCU Lookback is going to include Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, and Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's going to be not the next video, but the video after that. We're doing the Oscar horror video. So couple things before I go real quick. I just gotta say, if we can't protect this world, you'll be damn well sure we'll avenge it. This has been Drew from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you thumbs up this video. Make sure you share it. I'll leave a link to the first episode of this video somewhere here. Also leave a link to the Super 8 video, so hopefully I can get more views. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And this has been Drew from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. Have a good day, and Excelsior!